Hey everybody, Mark over here at Twanger's Turntable. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I just want to state right up front, I don't do any other social media. I'm not on the Instagram. I'm not on any of those formats, whatever they are, those social media websites. I don't partake in any of that. This is the extent of it. So I welcome you. I hope you'll stick around if you enjoy what you see here. That's awesome. For those returning, you know me. So cheers, everybody. Hope you're all doing good. So I started this. I didn't start. I've been on this thread that was started by Jacob in Denmark. It's the alphabet thread. I'm sure most of you know about it by now. If you don't, I'll leave a link to that. So I'm on the letter M. Am I? I am. So let's get it going. I'm trying to make these videos as brief as possible. I'll show a few records that by just inherently, you're probably going to see them many times in the violent community or on YouTube in general. So it's pointless to try and be completely unique because it seems to be it's futile, right? So the only uniqueness thing about this channel and Twanger's Turntable is going to be me. And my tastes, my likes are mine and mine alone. To each their own. I don't criticize anybody else's their taste in music. That's what makes us who we are. So we like what we like, and I love that saying because it speaks truth. So let's get going. I'm going to start by saying there are many people in the vinyl community that I really consider friends. I've never met in person. Most of these people are just truly friends online in the YouTube vinyl community, and so sometimes by mentioning some of these channels, it's again one of those things. It's almost impossible not to leave somebody out. But when I was talking about the alphabet tag, there's one very important person, and it's maybe because I was away for a little bit, not intentionally, but Scott over at No Solution. I've watched lots of his videos in this alphabet thread, and I'd completely forgotten. So I was doing some catching up, and he's just got a great channel over there. He's a great guy. So I just want to shout out Scott and show him the love that maybe I had neglected to do earlier because I do enjoy watching. I see shit over at Scott's channel that I don't see anywhere else, and I know that speaks more about me than anyone. There's lots of people out there showing the stuff that he shows, I'm sure, but I don't see all the channels. It's just so vast, it's impossible. So I wanted to make sure I gave Scott a shout out because I gave out a few other shout outs in my last video as far as people that were not in the last video, in the IJK video, that were taking part in this thread. And he just seemed to be an obvious omission because he's taking part in this, and I like what he presents. So without further ado, now that I've got that out of the way and all those formalities, I'm going to start off with a couple, and I'll start with one that immediately Scott comes to mind. But also, and I haven't seen Rick in a while. Rick and Records sent me this as a VCLT, or as a prize winning, actually. And it's Marillion, Fugazi. And I know Scott is a huge Marillion fan. I was watching one of his videos, and I think they did like a 5-hour thread or a marathon of, I don't know. I mean, somewhere, go check out his channel, and you'll see. But yeah, I think he's a huge Marillion fan, as well as Fish, and I think they didn't even dig into that stuff. But yeah, I was never into Marillion. I remember back in the day listening to Marillion, and it wasn't my thing. But that would have been 83, 84, maybe their first. Was it the Jester one? I'm not sure. I'm certainly no authority on Marillion, but this I want to give an extra special nod to because all the VCLT and prize winnings I get are just that extra special. So this is from Rick over at Rick and Records. I haven't seen him in a while. I hope he's doing okay, buddy. But yeah, comes to mind with Rick and Scott on that one. And there's actually lots of Marillion fans. I like that album, just not big into a lot of their other stuff. Next up is another VCLT, and one of my great friends here in the VCLT. You all know him. Aaron, Aaron Musa Alamir. Great Melvins album. This is their third album. Buzz Osborne and the gang. Just I don't know. If you've not heard it, I would suggest checking it out. Sometimes gets lumped in with that grunge scene, but they're, in my opinion, these are all just my opinion. These are more metal to me. Like Melvins was all just very reminiscent of the bands that play that low tune. Soundgarden comes to mind, Sabbath, that were influenced by bands like Sabbath and the Misfits and all those. Just, yeah, I don't know. Just great album. If you've not checked it out, I'm going to stop saying that. Everything I show here are going to be stuff that I would recommend checking out. Next up, one of my favorite bands of all time, and this would have certainly is my favorite, and I know this has been shown on several occasions because it appears to be this band's most popular album, just based on what I see, and maybe again that speaks more about me. But it's their debut, Too Fast for Love, Motley Crue. Now this is the reissue on Elektra, not the Leather Records one. That is, they printed, like, the initial run was 900 copies, and good luck finding that. It's up in the thousands of dollars. And I used to have the original on cassette. In fact, I still do. I should have brought it out. But it has one of my favorite tracks on that, and Stick to Your Guns is the name of the track that doesn't appear on the runs after they were signed by Elektra. Except a few of the early ones in Canada. I think maybe about 10,000 that were printed in Canada. Maybe not even that many. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. Had that Stick to Your Guns on it. But since, they do not. So if you can find it, great. But this is my favorite Crue album for sure. Next up, one of my favorite bands. Yeah, T-shirt gives it away. And this is my favorite album by them. Always has been. And when I say a band is one of my favorite albums, there is a very small margin that separates my favorite from not favorite. Anything by Metallica, I really dig it. But this one was this. I had it on 90-minute cassette back in the day with Kill 'Em All on side 1 and this on side 2, and just have always loved this. This is, yeah, I would say over the years, this one has creeped into my top slot, and that's revolved around essentially Kill 'Em All, Master Puppets, and this one would have at one point or another all been my favorites. But I always come back to this one when I pull out a Metallic album. More often than not, it is this one, and I'll just read off the tracks for those who are uninitiated. And yeah, it's fire. Fight fire with fire. Ride the lightning. For whom the bell tolls. Fade to Black, killer tune. They're all killer tunes. Trapped Under Ice kicks off side 2. Escape, Creeping Death, and then The Call of Cthulhu. Wow, which is an instrumental. You have to hear it to appreciate it. But yeah, my favorite Metallic album presently. Subject to change, like it often does with bands over the years. Next up, not so popular outside of Canada's borders, which is strange because they're actually from England, and it's a band called The Monks. And I know there's another band called The Monks, but this was formed from 3 members of the Straubs back in the 70s and they used to take a lot of heat because of that fact. They weren't real punk rockers, so this album is often considered not punk rock, but it's just fun. I don't think it was ever intended to be. It's just a fun record, and yeah, it did quite well here in Canada. And if you are taking this too seriously, just listen to the titles of the tunes on here. Starts off with Nice Legs, Shame About Your Face. I Ain't Getting Any. Out of Work Musician, which I absolutely love that song. I absolutely love it. No Shame, No Shame is the next one. Dear Jerry, Don't Try to Kill Me With Your Love, Norman. Love in Stereo, Skylab. Skylab refers to I think it was a satellite that was fell back to Earth in the 70s and landed somewhere in the outback of Australia. Don't quote me on that either. That's a long time ago, and I was just a kid. And I think I've read about it. I'm not just going by memory. Bad Habits, Inner City Kitty, Drugs in My Pocket, which was probably the biggest hit on here, but Bad Habits was a good tune, the title track. Johnny B. Rotten, that's there's a hidden message, or maybe not so hidden, but anyway. some commentary on Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. Spotty Face rounds off the album, and yeah, love it. Always have. My older brother introduced me to that. He was into a lot of that stuff, the Clash, the Monks, and just yeah, always the kind of more. When I think back now in reflection, he was much more diverse in his taste than I ever was. I was mostly just your standard rock, even some of the top 40 because I was taking part in the school radio program and DJ dances and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot of that stuff I had exposure to, and then it was hard rock and metal all the way. So. Next up, some Canadian content. I have to include these guys, even though they don't seem to fit in with the rest that I've shown here. It's just a fantastic album, at least regionally. And when I say regionally, it's probably more prominent in the East Coast, the Maritimes of Canada, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Cape Breton, which, speaking of Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, Minglewood Band, Matt Minglewood, and this was the band, basically went by the name Minglewood Band. They do what I consider a great cover on here of the Marshall Tucker Band song, Can't You See? And maybe blasphemous to some, but I think the version on here is better, at least to me. And that may be my bias because I actually heard this version before the Marshall Tucker version, Marshall Tucker Band version. But yeah, another great one. I did a little short with the lead-off track on here, Rockin' the Blues. Maybe I'll leave a link to that as well. But I just really dig it. My bestie, Jen, whenever I put this on, she literally has to leave the room. It's just not her bag at all. And so, to each their own. We like what we like. But I love this one. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. That's, don't need to say much more about that. Most of you probably don't even know that album. So. And last, but certainly not least, their debut, sort of. Those who know will know what I'm talking about. Motorhead. Come on. I mean, the original lineup with Lemmy and Filthy Animal and Fast Eddie. They did a lot of great stuff, but this is where it all sort of began. And I'm not going to go into details about what I mean by sort of. Look it up. Great album. Love this one. Motorhead. Often lumped into that metal category, and I don't know why. I mean, I don't consider them really metal, but they certainly are probably one of the most influential bands of most metal from that point. So I guess maybe that's what it is. Just they're considered metal by extension and by their influences, right? So very good album. Love it. Like all the Motorhead stuff. So that's M. That's going to round out the M's in my video. So am I done? I am. A lot of fun doing this thread. Like I say, again, a shout out to Jacob. Check out his channel if you haven't already, and Scott over at No Solution. Good stuff. Everybody that is taking part in this, they're killer videos. So I'll leave it at that. I enjoy doing it. I hope you enjoy coming along for the ride while I do it. And hope to get another video done here soon. But yeah, I only mentioned the thing about the other social media because I've been asked, have had a received email and stuff through my Twanger's Turntable account asking if I'm on Instagram and Facebook and all that. So no, I'm not. I don't do that. I don't take part in that. No, I barely have time to do this. There's no point in doing the other social media. I do have a messaging thing I do with my direct family. But that's got nothing to do with any of this. And so, no, there is no other social media for Mark here at Twanger's Turntable. But I do appreciate you stopping by and for asking and being interested enough to ask. That's awesome. But at this juncture, no, I'm not going to do that. So I'll leave it at that. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and your day. And we'll see you again here on the letter N that's coming next. So until then, cheers, everyone.